The morning sunlight filtered softly through the curtains, casting delicate patterns across my room. I sat on the edge of my bed, my heart hammering in my chest as I stared at the small cardboard box on my dresser. Inside it lay a secret I had been both dreading and craving, my very first wig. Long, silky, chestnut strands that promised to transform me in ways I had only dared imagine in the privacy of my mind. I, Ryan, had always lived a double life. By day, I was a typical college student, studying and working part-time at a local cafe, blending into the background. But by night, in the privacy of my small apartment, I indulged in a secret passion, exploring my feminine side. Crossdressing had started as a curious experiment, slipping into my sister's old clothes when she wasn't home, but over time, it had evolved into a form of self-expression, a way to escape the rigid expectations of being just a guy. But this wig was different. It wasn't borrowed or secondhand. It was mine, bought with careful deliberation and whispered excitement. And today, for the first time, I was going to see how it changed me. I took a deep breath and lifted the wig from its box, feeling the weight of the silky hair in my hands. It was heavier than I expected, yet soft and inviting. My fingers traced the strands, marveling at the craftsmanship. Okay, here goes nothing, I whispered to myself, a mixture of nerves and anticipation twisting in my stomach. Slipping the wig onto my head, I adjusted it carefully, tucking my own hair beneath the synthetic cap. The transformation was immediate and almost magical. The reflection in my mirror stared back at me, eyes wide with shock and awe. There was Ryan, yes, but there was also someone else, someone softer, more delicate. Someone I had longed to become. I ran my hands down the wig, letting the strands cascade over my shoulders. The sensation was intoxicating, and I could feel a shiver of excitement run through me. For the first time, I looked in the mirror and didn't see just a boy experimenting. I saw a girl, fully realized in this moment, even if only temporarily. My room was cozy, cluttered with reminders of my life. Textbooks stacked haphazardly, a few posters on the walls, and a wardrobe half full of clothes that told stories of both who I was and who I wanted to be. The sunlight caught the wig just right, highlighting its shine and making me almost forget that I was still in my own skin beneath it. Emma, my girlfriend, had always been supportive of my quirks, though she didn't know the full extent of my crossdressing. We had a unique bond, a balance of love, trust, and gentle teasing. She often joked about my obsession with fashion and makeup, calling me her little diva, but I had never revealed just how deep my fascination ran. Today, however, I knew I couldn't keep it a secret forever. Not with her or anyone else, including my mom. Speaking of my mom, she was the real challenge. She had always been traditional, warm but firm, and deeply invested in my proper upbringing. The thought of her seeing me like this sent waves of fear and excitement crashing together. Would she scold me? Laugh? Or accept me? The uncertainty made my palms sweat as I adjusted the wig one last time. I decided to test it, starting small. I slipped into a soft blouse I had carefully chosen, one that accentuated the contours of my body in a subtle, feminine way. Paired with a short skirt and my favorite pair of tights, the reflection staring back at me was almost unrecognizable. My heart raced, not from fear alone, but from the sheer thrill of seeing myself as someone completely new, someone I had dreamed of becoming. Emma walked in that afternoon, her presence a comforting mix of warmth and curiosity. She paused at the doorway, her eyes widening in surprise. "Wow," she breathed, stepping closer. "Ryan," or "Wow, just you look incredible." I blushed, running a hand through the wig, the strands falling perfectly around my face. "It's a wig," I admitted, feeling a mix of pride and vulnerability. I wanted to see what it would feel like, what I'd look like as a girl. Emma's smile was genuine, her eyes sparkling with a mix of amusement and admiration. "You don't have to worry about me judging," she said softly, reaching out to touch the wig. "I think you look beautiful." Her words, simple yet powerful, made my chest tighten with emotion. For so long, I had hidden this part of myself, fearing judgment, ridicule, and rejection. But in this moment, with the wig framing my face and Emma's eyes on me, I felt a surge of validation and acceptance that was both terrifying and exhilarating. But just as I began to relax, the sound of footsteps in the hallway froze me in place. My mom. She was home earlier than expected. Panic and excitement collided as I realized that in a few moments she might see me like this, fully dressed, fully transformed, fully exposed. I could hear her humming softly as she approached my door, oblivious to the storm about to unfold behind it. My hands shook as I adjusted the wig, smoothing it over my shoulders, making sure every strand was in place. My reflection in the mirror showed a girl staring back at me, confident, nervous, beautiful, and vulnerable all at once. The door creaked open. My mom stepped inside, pausing mid-step as her eyes fell on me. For a heartbeat, there was silence, a silence so intense it pressed against my chest like a physical weight. Then she blinked, slowly, and smiled. "Oh," she said, her voice soft, incredulous, but not unkind. "Ryan, you look just like a girl." Even I would believe it. I froze, heart hammering in disbelief. My secret, my deepest exploration of identity and self-expression, had not only been revealed but accepted. The mixture of fear, exhilaration, and overwhelming relief left me almost speechless. Emma, still beside me, leaned closer and whispered, "See? I told you you're amazing." And in that moment, with my wig perfectly in place, my outfit carefully arranged, and my mom looking at me with genuine acceptance, I felt a thrill unlike anything I had ever experienced. The world had shifted, if only for a moment, and I had stepped fully into a version of myself I had only dreamed of becoming. But even as the excitement surged through me, a flicker of doubt lingered in the back of my mind. Would this acceptance last? Or would it crumble when the novelty wore off? Could I maintain this transformation without facing consequences I hadn't yet imagined? For now, though, I let myself revel in the moment. The first time I wore a wig, and even my mom believed I was a girl. The thrill, the fear, the joy, it all mingled into a single, electrifying sensation, and I knew that nothing would ever feel the same again. The following days were a whirlwind of emotions. After my mom's initial surprise, life seemed to teeter on the edge between normalcy and chaos. I kept the wig hidden in my room, tucked carefully into its box, yet I couldn't resist sneaking peeks at it whenever I had a moment alone. The thrill of slipping it on and feeling completely different, it was addictive, intoxicating, and terrifying all at once. I started experimenting more deliberately. Each day, I'd try a different outfit, a different makeup look, testing the limits of my feminine persona. Some days, I wore soft dresses that swayed as I walked across my room. Other days, tighter skirts and blouses emphasized curves that were only beginning to emerge. Makeup became a ritual. Foundation carefully applied, eyeshadow blended with precision, mascara lengthening my lashes until my eyes looked huge, almost unreal. Lipstick, in shades I had only dreamed of, completed the transformation. With every stroke, I felt less like Ryan, and more like the girl I had always wanted to be. At first, I tried to keep these moments private. My room was my sanctuary, and I rarely left it in full transformation. But the thrill of walking around the apartment, hearing the click of heels on the floor, feeling the fabric of a skirt against my legs, made my heart race. I'd catch my reflection in the mirror and gasp at how real it felt, how complete the illusion was. My mind began to play tricks on me. Sometimes I would forget I was Ryan for a few minutes entirely, lost in the fantasy of being her. The biggest challenge, of course, was Emma. She was both my anchor and my thrill, supporting me in ways she didn't fully understand while also teasing me relentlessly. When she came over, I would carefully conceal my experiments, or so I thought. But one afternoon, after finishing my makeup, I felt an almost irresistible urge to show her. I stepped into the living room, wig perfectly in place, skirt swishing slightly as I moved. My heart pounded as I awaited her reaction. Her eyes widened, and she let out a soft gasp. "Ryan," or "Wow, you look different." Her voice was a mix of surprise and delight, and my chest swelled with a strange, euphoric pride. I knew she didn't fully understand what I was feeling, but her acceptance fueled my courage. She stepped closer, inspecting my outfit, the makeup, the wig. "You really look like a completely different person. I mean, like a girl." She smiled, her words hanging in the air like a promise. "It's amazing." Every word made my cheeks flush. The thrill of revealing myself to someone I trusted, and seeing that trust rewarded, was indescribable. But it also sparked anxiety. What if she told someone? What if she laughed at me later? The internal conflict was a constant push and pull, the excitement of being seen versus the fear of being exposed. At home, I started to push boundaries even further. I experimented with outfits that were more revealing, daring even by my own standards. High heels became my obsession. The way they altered my posture, the subtle sway in my hips, the soft click of each step. It was a new language of movement, one that I could barely master but craved to perfect. Each time I wore them, my legs felt longer, my stride more confident, yet every misstep reminded me of the vulnerability I carried. I was acutely aware of how easily I could be discovered, and that risk only heightened the thrill. One afternoon, alone in my room, I decided to take the biggest risk yet. I slipped into a tight-fitting dress I had recently purchased, one that hugged my torso and flared just above the knees. The wig cascaded down my shoulders perfectly, framing my face, and my makeup highlighted features I had only recently begun to understand. I took a deep breath, then carefully stepped into my heels. My balance was unsteady at first, but with each step across the carpeted floor, I felt more in control, more alive, more her. But just as I was admiring my reflection, the sound of the front door opening froze me.
Emma.
My heart raced. I hadn't expected her yet. Panic and excitement surged simultaneously. I grabbed a light sweater to cover my dress, but it barely hid the transformation. She called my name from the hallway and I stammered, trying to sound casual. "Hey, Emma." I was just, She stepped into the room, her eyes narrowing slightly as she caught a glimpse of my silhouette beneath the sweater. "Ryan, are you wearing?" Her voice trailed off, a mix of curiosity and suspicion. I swallowed hard, my pulse thudding in my ears. "It's just for fun," I whispered, my voice trembling slightly. "I wanted to try it out." Emma blinked, processing the words. Then her expression softened. "You look really good," she said finally. "Honestly, I didn't think, wow. You're really pretty." Relief and excitement collided in my chest. Her acceptance was intoxicating. But beneath the thrill, a nagging sense of suspense gnawed at me. What if someone else saw me like this? What if my mom came home unexpectedly again? The excitement of the risk made my heart race, as much as the pleasure of the transformation itself. The days that followed were a careful dance of secrecy and experimentation. I learned to move gracefully in heels, to adjust the wig without it slipping, to apply makeup with precision that felt professional. Each successful transformation gave me more confidence, yet each slip or near discovery sent waves of panic through me. I was constantly balancing on the edge of exposure, and the tension became a part of the thrill. One evening, I decided to test the ultimate challenge: stepping outside. I had avoided leaving the apartment fully dressed before, but the desire to see myself in public, just for a moment, was irresistible. With Emma's cautious encouragement, I put on my favorite dress, wig perfectly styled, heels clicked against the hallway floor. She held my hand, guiding me toward the door. "You're going to be fine," she whispered, though her eyes betrayed her own nervous excitement. Stepping out, the world felt different. Every sound, every glance from strangers felt magnified, as though everyone could see the secret I carried beneath my carefully constructed exterior. The wind brushed against the wig, the dress swirled around my legs, and I realized with a jolt how vulnerable I felt and how exhilarating it was. For the first time, the thrill of crossdressing extended beyond the walls of my room, beyond the safety of my apartment, into the unpredictable reality of the outside world. Each step, each moment of potential exposure heightened the suspense. I had never felt so alive, so aware of every movement, every detail. My identity as Ryan and as her, my feminine self, blended in a dizzying mix of fear and excitement. Every glance from a passerby, every whisper of the wind through the streets, was charged with tension. Back home, I collapsed onto the bed, heart racing, cheeks flushed. The thrill of the day left me breathless, exhilarated, and terrified all at once. I realized I was addicted to this sensation, the delicate balance of secrecy and self-expression, vulnerability and empowerment. Each transformation, each experiment, each daring adventure outside my room was a step deeper into a world I had longed for but feared. But as the night settled, a small, nagging thought remained in the back of my mind. What if someone discovered my secret tomorrow? What if my mom, or worse, someone outside, saw me fully transformed? The suspense of potential exposure was intoxicating and terrifying. And so, each day became a careful dance, experimenting in secret, pushing boundaries, embracing my feminine persona, and navigating the thrill and danger of living between two worlds. Little did I know, the most suspenseful and life-changing moments were yet to come, moments that would test everything I had learned, challenge every boundary, and push me into a climax of fear, excitement, and self-discovery that I had never imagined possible. The tension in the apartment that evening was unbearable. I had spent the entire day preparing for what I knew would be the most daring transformation yet. The wig, perfectly styled, sat atop my head, blending seamlessly with my features. My dress hugged my body in all the right places, and the heels added a sway to my steps that I had been perfecting over weeks of practice. But it wasn't just about looking like her anymore. It was about surviving the suspense. Emma had gone out briefly to run errands, leaving me alone with the overwhelming mix of fear and excitement. I paced my room, glancing repeatedly at the mirror. Each reflection was a reminder of how different I felt, how real this identity could be if I dared to fully embrace it. My heartbeat drummed in my ears as I imagined what could happen if my mom walked in unexpectedly, or if a neighbor glimpsed me through the window. I started practicing my voice, softening it, making it melodic. I adjusted the wig for the 100th time, smoothing stray strands. Each movement was calculated, precise, yet a thrill ran through me at the thought of walking around fully in my feminine persona without being discovered. Hours passed. Shadows stretched across the walls as the sun dipped below the horizon. I decided to take a risk, moving from my room into the hallway, a space where my mom might come unexpectedly. The hallway was narrow, claustrophobic, and every creak of the floorboards made my pulse spike. I tiptoed, feeling the subtle swish of my skirt, the click of my heels echoing softly. Suddenly, a sound froze me in place. The front door opened. A key turned in the lock. My heart leaped into my throat. My mom. Panic surged. I ducked behind the corner, holding my breath, hoping she wouldn't see anything unusual. Her footsteps echoed as she entered the living room, humming softly. I could hear her settling in, but not approaching my room yet. Relief mixed with lingering fear, and I realized that even small movements now carried enormous stakes. Minutes felt like hours. Finally, she retreated to the kitchen, probably making herself a cup of tea. I exhaled slowly, realizing how close I had come to being caught. The thrill was intoxicating. My body buzzed with adrenaline, my mind racing with what-ifs and possibilities. I knew that this wasn't just play anymore. It was a test of courage, identity, and secrecy. I decided to push the limits further. Slipping out of my room, I moved toward the living room where my reflection was partially visible in the large mirror near the hallway. My legs trembled in the heels, and my pulse raced as I faced the reflection fully. The girl staring back at me was unrecognizable as Ryan, yet undeniably me. The wig framed my face perfectly, makeup highlighting my features, and the dress clinging delicately to my frame. For a brief moment, I forgot about the world outside, lost entirely in the persona I had created. But then a knock at the door. My heart stopped. Who could it be at this hour? I froze, unsure whether to answer, hide, or run. The knocking grew louder, more insistent. I realized with a jolt that I hadn't anticipated this scenario. My mind raced. Emma? A neighbor? Mom again? Each possibility sent waves of panic through me. I crept toward the door, the skirt brushing against my legs, the heels making silent taps on the floor. Peeking through the peephole, I saw a shadowy figure, my neighbor, Mr. Davis, holding a package. Relief and terror collided. Relief that it wasn't Emma or my mom, terror that he might see me if the door opened too widely. I grabbed the package through the mail slot, my hands shaking, and retreated to the safety of my room. Heart still racing, I sat on the edge of my bed, the adrenaline coursing through me. The near discovery had been a perfect storm, just enough danger to spike my excitement and reinforce the thrill of living this dual life. Emma returned shortly after, her eyes widening as she took in my appearance. "Wow, you really did it," she whispered, awe in her voice. "I didn't think it's so real." Her gaze was intense, appreciative, and validating. My chest swelled, my cheeks flushed. Her approval was everything, yet it also carried a subtle warning. The thrill was intoxicating, but the stakes were real. We spent the evening carefully experimenting with poses, movements, and expressions, each one a rehearsal for public exposure. I felt alive in ways I had never imagined, yet every laugh, every smile, carried an undertone of danger. What if someone walked in at the wrong moment? What if my mom came home early again? The suspense was part of the allure. The constant risk made each moment feel like a high-stakes game. Then, as night fell, we heard it, a muffled voice outside the window. My heart froze. Someone was walking past, close enough that they might notice the faint glow from the room, and if they peeked inside, the fully transformed me. Emma and I exchanged a glance, silent communication conveying both fear and excitement. I held my breath, imagining the consequences if they saw me like this. Time stretched interminably. The footsteps eventually receded, but the lingering fear made the adrenaline spike again. I realized that this journey wasn't just about appearance. It was about courage, identity, and the ability to navigate a world that might not understand or accept me. The final moments of the night were the most intense. I practiced moving in heels silently across the room, adjusting the wig, perfecting my expressions in the mirror. Each glance at my reflection reminded me that I was living a secret life full of thrill and suspense, that the boundary between Ryan and her was fragile, yet exhilarating. And just as I started to relax, a sudden crash echoed from the kitchen. My heart leapt. Emma gasped. We both froze, eyes wide. Someone or something had entered. The shadows moved, and I realized the suspense had reached its peak. I held my breath, ready to confront whatever, or whoever, was on the other side. The night had escalated from playful experimentation to a high-stakes test of identity, secrecy, and courage. Every decision, every step, every glance carried weight, and the next moments would determine whether my secret life could survive or be exposed forever. The suspense was unbearable, the thrill intoxicating. And in that moment, I knew nothing would ever be the same again. The crash from the kitchen echoed through the apartment, and my heart raced so fast it felt like it might burst. Emma and I froze, our eyes locked in terror and disbelief. Every nerve in my body screamed that this was the moment my secret life, the identity I had spent hours, weeks, months building, could be shattered forever. I crept toward the hallway, my heels clicking lightly against the wooden floor. The wig felt heavier somehow, as if the weight of the secret I carried pressed down on me. My hand shook, and I struggled to steady my breathing. Emma was right behind me, her small hand gripping mine, sharing both the fear and thrill. Through the dim light, I could see shadows shifting in the kitchen. My mom? A neighbor? Or, God forbid, someone else? Each possibility was more terrifying than the last. I whispered to Emma, "Stay behind me, whatever happens, don't move." Her nod was almost imperceptible, but it gave me courage. I peeked around the corner. A bag had fallen from the counter. That was it. Just a bag. My relief was immediate, yet I couldn't shake the lingering anxiety. The adrenaline surged, and I realized that even minor incidents could send my carefully constructed world into chaos. We both exhaled slowly, hearts still pounding. Emma let out a nervous laugh, and I managed a weak smile. "That was too close," I murmured, smoothing the wig and straightening my dress. She nodded, but I could see in her eyes that she understood. This thrill, this risk was addictive. Then a new sound stopped us dead in our tracks. My phone buzzed on the counter, a notification lighting up the screen. I froze. The message was from an unknown number. My hands shook as I unlocked it. The message was simple, yet chilling. "I saw her. You're not as careful as you think." My blood ran cold. Emma gasped beside me. How had someone seen me? Had they been watching the apartment? The adrenaline turned to panic. My carefully hidden identity, the persona I had crafted and lived in, was now in danger. We moved quickly to the window, trying to see if anyone was outside. Shadows danced in the dim streetlight, but no one appeared. Yet the message lingered in my mind like a poison. Whoever it was had been watching, and they knew. My secret wasn't safe anymore. I sank onto the couch, the wig falling slightly forward, and brushed it back, my hands trembling. Emma sat beside me, whispering reassurances, but I couldn't shake the dread. Every step I had taken toward embracing this identity now felt like walking a tightrope over a chasm. One misstep could destroy everything. And then I realized the message hadn't included a name. Whoever was watching could be anyone. A neighbor? A friend? Someone from school? The ambiguity made it worse. Every sound outside, every creak in the apartment, made me jump. I couldn't relax. I couldn't trust anyone. Emma squeezed my hand, her voice soft. "We'll figure this out together." I nodded, grateful for her support, but a deep unease settled over me. The thrill of transformation, the rush of finally feeling like her, was now mixed with fear I hadn't felt before. The clock ticked ominously. Outside, the night was silent, yet every shadow felt alive. My reflection in the mirror seemed different somehow, more fragile, more vulnerable. The wig, the dress, the heels, they weren't just props anymore. They were shields, defenses against a world that could expose me at any moment. A sudden knock at the door shattered the tense silence. My heart leapt into my throat. Emma froze beside me, eyes wide. We exchanged a glance, panic mirrored in both of us. Whoever it was, they knew. Or, at least, they suspected. I crept toward the door. Every step weighted with fear. The knocking grew louder, more insistent. My mind raced. Should I hide? Should I answer? Would it be Emma's mom? Or worse, someone who could ruin everything I had become? I took a deep breath, gripping the doorknob. My reflection in the hallway mirror caught my eye. The girl in the wig, the dress, the heels, staring back with wide, terrified eyes. She was me, yet not me. And the decision I was about to make would determine everything. I turned the knob, and that's when the screen goes black.